Okay, so what I want to do now is just do some practice problems. These are going to be different types of problems that use the basic steps. Remember, this seems more complex because this is the same rules that we're going to use for 2.2. So I know some of these you might say, well, I didn't do step 1 or step, let's say 4. But I wrote them all out because we're going to be really using this for 2.2 as well. So we got a simple problem here. Negative 2y plus 5 equals 9. Again, it's an equation. Directions would say solve. How do I solve? Well, before I actually get to my first step is I'm going to locate where that equal sign is. That way I have my two parts. Here's my left side, here's my right side. Remember, our goal is to get the variable on one side and then the number on the other side. So our first step, once I have this, is to go to simplify. Look at one side of the equation at a time. Remember, we have our little eraser, piece of paper, whatever. Cover up one side of the equation at a time. Doesn't matter if you cover up the left side first and work on the right, or vice versa. If I look on the right-hand side, you ask yourself the two questions. Do you have parentheses? No. Do you have any like terms? It's just one item, and it's a constant. So no. Now cover up this side and ask yourself those same two questions. Do you have a set of parentheses? No. Do you have like terms? Remember, you need to know each of the different items here. This is a coefficient. This, the letter, is the variable. This is a constant. Remember, any number that's added to the letter is a constant. Any number, negative 2, that is multiplied to the variable is a coefficient. So when I look on just this side, coefficient, variable, constant, no match. So we don't have any simplifying. Second step, labeling. One side of the equation is going to be variable, the other side is going to be constant. Always look for the variable first. So our hint is label the variable side first. Notice there's only one side that has a letter. Perfect. That means this side is going to be variable, and this side is going to be constant. Once you have that, then you can see what needs to move. Remember, only variables can stay on this side. This is a coefficient, but we don't have a coefficient sign. So this negative 2 gets to stay for right now. Y is a letter, it's a variable, it gets to stay on the variable side. The 5, it's a constant. It needs to move because it's not a variable. Anytime you move, you do the additive inverse, opposite sign. Opposite of a positive 5 would be a negative 5. Remember, whatever you do to one side equation, you have to do the other to keep it balanced. So if I do a negative 5 on the left, you have to do a negative 5 on the right. Because these are the same items but different signs, they actually will cancel out. Because you know when you collect a constant with another constant, positive and a negative, you subtract. 5 from 5 is 0. That's why they're gone. This we haven't touched, so notice I just bring it down. Now on this side, remember, circle, collect, okay? If you forgot, remember, go back to your steps. When it comes to moving, we have to collect any like terms. Remember, collect is circling. So I have a constant of 9 and a constant of negative 5. So they're like terms because they're both constants. Are they the same sign or different signs? That determines if you add or subtract. They're different signs, so we subtract. Who wins the tug of war? Because this could be a negative 4 or positive 4. Let's see, 9 players on one side of the rope, 5 players on the other. You know that the team that has most players, the 9, is going to win. And 9 is what type of number? Positive, okay? This is a positive, this is a negative, different signs, that's why we subtract. Player 9 wins, so it becomes a positive 4. You don't need to write the plus 4 there. Sometimes I do, just to remind me. Yep, it's positive. Now that this is only a coefficient and a variable, and we want to get the variable by itself, we're doing the divorcing step. So remember, the divorcing step says you want to separate the coefficient from the variable by dividing by not only that coefficient, but its sign as well. So notice we have a negative 2. So I want to divide not only by the 2, but the sign as well. So divide this side by -2, divide this side by -2. Because we're dividing, think of it divorcing, we're going to not use tug-of-war rules anymore. We're going to use our tic-tac-toe board, okay? So you're going to be flipping back and forth. When a negative and a negative, if you're collecting, it'll stay negative. If you're divorcing, it's going to become positive. So you got to be careful. Know when you're going to use a tic-tac-toe board versus tug-of-war. Here, we're divorcing, dividing. So a negative, divide by negative, you know it's a positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1y. We just said that 1 times y is y. And over here, positive divided by a negative. Remember, we talked about this if you didn't see our first videos. Remember, for multiplication or division, draw your tic-tac-toe board. Make the pluses win diagonal. Put in your negatives everywhere else. So if your first number is positive, second number is negative, your answer is going to be negative. So y equals -2 for this guy. Okay? Let's do another problem. Just to show you that sometimes the variable doesn't have to be labeled on the left side. So I'm going to do one where the variable, we're going to label it on the right side. So we still have to find our equal sign. Anytime you find your equal sign, there's your left, there's your right hand side. Step 1, simplify. Remember, you got to cover it up. Don't look at it all at once. Because I always get someone that says, ooh, there's a constant, collect. No. Simplify. You have to focus on one side at a time. So if I cover up this side, okay, notice I just have a 7. I don't have anything else but this constant. So there's no like terms. There's not another constant to combine. Once you're done looking on the left side, cover it up, focus on the right hand side. Remember, there's your variable. Since that's multiplied, that's a coefficient. Since this is subtracted, that's a constant. Coefficient, variable, constant. No match, so no like terms. Next step. Labeling. Notice, we always said label the variable side first, and the only side that has a variable happens to be on our right-hand side. That is fine for us. Okay? Because remember, I said your goal could be variable on one side, constant on the other, or the opposite. Constant first, and then the variable on the right-hand side. So we're kind of have one of these types of problems. Once you do the labeling, let's see what's not in the appropriate spot. Anything that has to move. Constant, it's on the constant side, good. Coefficient, we don't have a coefficient side yet, so we'll leave them there. Variable, on the variable side. Uh-oh, that's a constant. Can't stay on the variable side. We do have a constant side, so the opposite to move it. Instead of a -1, add 1 to both sides. So 7 plus 1 is 8. These are additive inverses. You know that 1 and 1 subtract because they're different signs is 0. Now that we have constants here, coefficient and variable here, we don't have a coefficient side. That tells me to get rid of it. I'm ready for the divorcing step. So I'm going to separate that 4 from the x by dividing both sides by the 4. And since it's positive, divide both sides by positive 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 divided by 4 is 1x. And you should know by now, 1x is the same thing as x. So a lot of times I don't show this middle step because once you realize that this is secretly 1, then we can go from here to here. Okay, so that's how to do some of our basic problems. The next section I'm going to do is with some fractions and some decimal points.